That festival means she gets to finish school. That conference means he gets an equal chance. That yoga class means hunger won't keep them from learning. Humanitix is on a mission to close the education gap for the 600 million kids facing hardship. We're the first non-profit ticketing platform to give 100% of the profits from booking fees to world-changing education projects. We're a charity for the tech generation. We don't ask for donations. We just want your events to have impact. It's why we're backed by the Google and Atlassian Foundations. So it doesn't matter how epic or how local your event is, your choices have an impact. Every ticket counts.
Welcome everybody to the Masterclass this afternoon, Better Than Live, How to Run Incredible Online Events. Now let's begin with an acknowledgement of the traditional owners of the country on which we meet today. For me, that's the Darug and Gurungai people, and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So welcome everybody. I am thrilled to be sharing the stage with Adam McCurdie, the co-founder and CEO of Humanitix.
Hello, Alexi.
Hi, how are you going, Adam?
Very good, thank you.
I can hear you, I can see you, so we're all plugged in this weird virtual online world we live in. Give people a little bit of an intro. My name is Alexi and I'm the Conversation Curator, specialising in curating engaging and conversational content with your expert guests. My style is curious and conversational, and through a process of solid preparation, guests feel prepared and secure in the knowledge that the conversation will be time managed, equitable, and when called for, robust.
Awesome, thank you so much, Lexi. Firstly, a quick bit of information that's really helpful is we have put together a super helpful ebook with a whole bunch of tricks, tips, ideas, advice, everything you might need to help run an online event or transition your events to online. To download this, it's free. All you need to do is click on the link inside your virtual events hub, and we'll also post it in the comments. So you've got a couple of options there to download this really helpful ebook that we've spent a bunch of time putting together with some of the best things that we've been seeing in the industry of creative organizers and those that are making it work for themselves.
And Adam, can I just say that is an exceptionally very useful piece of information. And I've read through it, picked up a few top tips as well from Humanitix. So thanks for producing that for a very important event industry at the moment who needs all the help they can get.
Thank you, our pleasure.
Just so you know this as well, guys, we've got some of your fantastic questions, which Jenny has been helping us out with. If you think of anything, please ask us. We are here to help you. We're here to guide you, and we want to answer your questions because like all things small business, everything is unique, everybody's different, and you all behave differently either in the online world and in the real world. So we want to be able to help you out. So flick us those questions and we can support you in the best way we can. Don't forget as well, today's webinar is being recorded and you can access it later. If you're madly scribbling down all these notes and you need to get it all down, don't worry, it's recorded and you can catch up later.
Unreal, thanks Lexi. Cool, so we're going to do our first little piece of engagement. Again, this is something you can do yourself for your own events. So what I'd ask you all to do is to take out your smartphone and bring out the camera and scan the QR code that you see on your screen now. And this will bring up a link. And if you click that link, you're going to go into a super helpful app. It's a free app called Menti that you can use. And it's got a poll. And we're going to ask a couple of questions. The first question is finding out where everyone is tuning in today. So I'll leave this screen up here before I go to the results so you can have access to that QR code. If you don't have your phone, the other option is you can bring up menti.com and then simply type in the code 181168. So jump in there, bring up the Menti poll and answer the first question. And let's have a look at how our results are going.
Isn't this the best, Adam, the way that you can actually like find out where people are from all over the world? And isn't it crazy that we're just tapping in to this, this World Wide Web? Ooh, I sounded a bit old there. And we're just getting access to so much data information instantly. And this is, you know, this is another great example of one of the ways that you can keep engaged with your attendees.
That's right. Wow, and look how nice the graphics are with Menti. It's a really nice representation of...
They look like those little bubbles that the kids have with the straws and the metal straws and the, what are they called? The bubble drinks? It's making, making you thirsty.
Yeah, and so this is one nice little tip. Again, like this is quite helpful where we're able to see where everyone's coming from. And we've got a second question that we're asking in Menti. But this also gives everyone a nice look at how Menti works. Super neat tool. And we use it quite a fair bit at Humanitix and can't recommend it enough. Wow, this looks like New South Wales slightly has the edge of Victoria.
I don't know, they're coming in quick at the back end there. A couple of Victorians. This is hilarious just watching them like establishing where they live and we're watching them crawl across the screen. Quite mesmerizing actually.
Very cool. Awesome. All right, well then I think that should just about do it. Let's jump into the next question. So, how are you feeling about the events industry right now? So your Menti app that you've just had, this thing that you've got on your browser, should actually change the question for you now. And if you start typing something and submit it, it's going to start showing up. We got the first one, meh. I think that's pretty much how everyone feels.
And someone's put in the chat, what events? Is that a thing?
Curious, optimistic. I love the graphics on this thing.
I do feel slightly dizzy though.
Scared, overwhelmed. Yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, that's kind of when you keep a finger on the pulse of various industries, it's definitely, I would argue that the events industry, particularly small business, is suffering rather greatly, probably more than anyone else. At least travel has picked up a little bit domestically, but certainly I think it's a very scary time and that definitely has to be acknowledged. But equally a good time to, I guess, saddle up and get as much information into you as you possibly can and get training going.
Totally, totally. And I'll just show everyone how this app is actually working. So the most common words that it's picking up from everyone are made bigger, while the less common words are made smaller. So you can kind of see a very quick representation of the feeling. Which is apparently a combination of excited and uncertain. There you go.
I do like the positivity. That's good. Challenging. There's a very positive word. Yes, nice. But challenging. But you know, I think if anything, the events industry are a group of people who can rise to the challenge. Definitely, yeah. And that's highlighted by the number of people we've got here today. So thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that does it for the poll. Let's jump back in and we can get underway.
So Adam, this one's for you because we're going with a real conversational tone today and we're going to be sort of chatting to one another and drawing on your questions as well. What is happening apart from the emotions behind the event industry? What's happening in the world of events right now from your perspective?
Yeah, it's been incredibly interesting over the past few months. I mean, as you can see from just the Menti poll question, it's uncertainty, I think, is the real theme and the key. Organizers are unsure as to whether or not they can run their event, even events for, you know, maybe next year. What's it going to look like? Are lockdowns going to come back in? Do I move my events to online? Do I start running something online? Do I just postpone everything altogether and go into hibernation? You know, what can I be doing that's constructive and productive at this time? And trying to work out what the best tools are to make that happen. You know, it was really interesting what we saw in New Zealand was once the lockdowns finished, there was this huge swell over to live events again. Organizers were using online events to really engage their audience as best as possible. And that was working well for some of the ones that were doing it, you know, taking advantage of it properly. And then once the lockdowns finished, there was just this massive swell back where, you know, people just wanted to connect one-on-one again, which was really interesting to see. But then the organizers had some of those tools and learnings that they took from when they were in lockdown of how they can engage people on a much more digital level for their events. But it's been incredibly interesting. I mean, when we first went into lockdown, Humanitix were just working overtime with organizers and creators to help with how do you communicate with your attendees that are unsure about whether the event's going to happen. And things have stabilized more and more. I think we've really got through that peak uncertainty where everyone from attendees to organizers just didn't know what was going to be happening next. But thankfully, things have started to somewhat stabilize now, and we can start to look at how we optimize and capitalize on the opportunities that are available to us today, particularly through online events. And that's what really this is all about, how much value and insight we can share with everyone about what they can be doing now, given things are restricted to some degree.
And that's what medically we've been told for the last sort of 6 months or whatever it is, and especially in the last couple of months, that we have to adapt, and this is potentially the new normal. But hats off to the event industry for doing really funky and crazy and interesting stuff, which you're going to cover a little bit in the presentation later on. But what an adaptability. Like, there should be a serious celebration out there amongst everyone in the events industry about how well people have pivoted, adopted technology, and been really enthusiastic about doing the best that they can under the circumstances that they're in.
Absolutely, 100%. Well, I guess the next thing, to look at here is something we're going to cover off is, like what's possible with live events and what have we been seeing? It's been fascinating to see the organizers that have been really embracing the online world and making it work for them. And we've got a few case studies to talk through. The first one that is a phenomenal case study is this lady. She's Nonna, and she's based in Italy. And Italy was one of the first countries to go into a heavy lockdown where the whole country had to stay at home. And as you can see here, her entire business is based on small groups, typically obviously tourists, often from America, traveling to her country town in Italy and coming for a one-on-one cooking class with Nonna, where she teaches you how to make amazing pasta and pastries, etc. And so this is a perfect example of someone's business that really should have just completely gone up in smoke and not been feasible one bit whatsoever. I mean, you can see what the style of her business was. What she ended up doing was putting everything online and starting to run online cooking classes whilst people were at home. And what she found is that now, instead of running 5 or 10 person little cooking classes, she was running cooking classes for thousands of people at a time, all paying money to be buying the ingredients for themselves at home that she would send out an ingredients list for. And then they would log into the online course, and you had Nonna in the kitchen with a video taking everyone through live in real time how to make these amazing pastas. And people were at home anyway and engaged tremendously. And so now her business has gone from just a small, nice, cute experience to something that is a global sensation. And that was just phenomenal. And that's one of the key things with online events is that you no longer require people to be present in your city or even your country to be attending your event.
I think and also just that connecting in with your genuine self. What is your real, who is your real life person, and how do you extend on from that? So it's kind of when you're building an event, you still stick to the core value of what the event's all about, but you've got to be a bit experimental with different ways of working. Absolutely,
absolutely. And this is another one with special guests. So not only can your attendees be attending your event from any country in the world, you can also have special guests that can be your guest speaker or your performer or artist that is performing at your event. Again, not having to be in your country, you're not having to fly them over, you're not having to pay these huge amounts of money to put them up in a hotel and take out a big amount of time from their schedule. You're simply saying, hey, can you do this for an hour, 2 hours, and be a part of this event? And it's all online, and you can do it from the convenience of your home. And that's also worked incredibly well for a bunch of organizers.
Or you can just bring a puppy. You just bring a puppy and everyone's like, oh, surprise guest, a puppy. That's awesome.
That's it. Yeah, pets work the best. Here's some other like cute, nice ideas that we've seen. So things like, you know, how do you, where you have something like Coachella, you know, you've got people dressing up. That's a massive thing about the festival. So how do you then bring that into people's own home where they're looking to go through their wardrobe, try on different outfits, use hashtags, essentially your lounge room festival where people are trying on all these kinds of things. Again, another thing to boost engagement where it's relevant for that kind of event where you have this kind of dress up thing being a big aspect of the event.
Also helps to get your guests, your special guests can get involved in that action as well.
Right.
And you know, it helps to break down that barrier between you and the special guest or you and that surprise celebrity, and it makes them more human. It humanizes them a little bit too. Yeah,
there's something about seeing somebody in their own home that's a bit less, a bit less stagey, which can be nice. Yeah, exactly. Here's another really neat idea. You've had festivals that have gone over weeks. So they have lots of different artists that they have playing in the festival, and it's all online, and the artists are based all across the world. And rather than having all your artists need to be there for, you know, a 2-3 day festival and everyone come at the one time, you can have this event stretch over days, weeks, even months if you want to really push it. And so that element of stretching the boundaries of time that's you know, you're typically bounded in an event to maybe maximum of a week. But now you can really extend that.
And that helps to build a community as well. I'm going to talk a little bit more about building community with those events that seem to go on for a very long time. And also, Leanne in the chat, those of you who aren't in the chat, I suggest you get in there because people are sharing some really interesting stuff. Leanne mentions that she went to a conference that shifted to online, and because of that, the budget increased for speakers, which meant they could get people of, you know, higher value, perceived value to join.
Yeah, it's amazing that. And as well, when you do have talent of that caliber, what's really helpful is you can do that. Well, here you've got the meet and greets. So you can sell one-on-one experiences for attendees to say, you know what, I want to have a one-on-one with the artist or with whatever the talent is. And you can sell VIP tickets of that nature. And then again, if you're having it over weeks, you can be creating quite a lot of those experiences. And, you know, the talent is like us. They're sitting at home. Wanting to engage with people and wanting to get out there as much as possible and make use of their time. So everyone's in the same boat, and this seems to work really nicely in that way.
Can I just share a little anecdote which just popped into my head now? One of my daughter's friends had a 14th birthday party, and just through family connections, they were able to get Celia Piccola to come in, and they were all having one big Zoom. And it was so sad because all these 14-year-olds were like isolated from one another completely, and they were all in there, and she didn't know it was happening. Then all of a sudden Celia Piccola came up and she started crying. It was it was really awesome, and it almost feels as though I think celebs out there who they want to reconnect with people. I mean, they're sitting in their lounge rooms too, and wanting to, you know, feel those human connections. It's a lovely way of doing it. So don't forget about, I love those idea of those unique experiences, Adam. You could even create competitions and, you know, like a business draw card where one person's going to get the opportunity to have a one-on-one session with your keynote. I mean, you can't even buy that at a normal conference. It's awesome.
Absolutely. And people are often just too busy to offer those kinds of experiences to their fans, but now they're all sitting at home.
Exactly. Yeah, some great ideas there.
Here's one that's actually ticketing on Humanitix right now. It's tonight. Oh, not right now. Oh, yeah. It's ticketed now, and the event is tonight. And this is an awesome event. It's Australia's biggest virtual dinner party. And what they're doing is they're sending people these care packages that you can see there. And inside that, you've got all the ingredients for the night's dinner party. It comes with a bottle of wine. It comes with candles. You've even got a placemat there that they're sending everyone, and there's games on that placemat. And there's a whole range of activities and stuff. They've got the guys from Chasers as the special guests there, so they'll be doing their Chaser thing. And the whole event is also supporting Lifeline. And the music that will be played at the event is done through musicians making a difference, which is an awesome charity that gets amazing musicians to start to teach kids that are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds the beauty of music and how that can transform lives. And this event has got incredible traction, and it's really, it's drawing on quite a few elements there that have really worked well for them.
That's awesome.
Cool. So Alexi, one for you. I mean, you know, it's often quite intuitive at a real event, you know, where people are there and you think, okay, how am I going to engage my community and my attendees while I'm there? But often I think when it's online, you think, man, how am I going to do this? I'm comfortable when I'm there, but now I'm online and I feel like my hands are tied behind my back. What do I do?
Yeah, it's almost like the anti-extrovert, this scenario that we find ourselves in. So this is almost appealing, you know, to the other half of the world, which are introverts who are quite comfortable sitting there on their own and just meekly working their way into conferences. But I would say just in regards to that, you have to balance content with engagement. So firstly, above all else, content is king, and that doesn't change from live events. And if anything else, you can make this more of a focused, because people are, in a way, they can be disengaged. There's the cat, there's, you know, phone calls coming in, then they're multitasking. But at the same time, if you focus really keenly on what your conference is all about, then you draw people in, because that's why they're there. Their time is very valuable to people these days, and they're going to want to spend their time if it's valuable. So the content needs to really remain the foundation of what you're doing. You need solid, knowledgeable experts. And the great thing is you can move away from the rah-rah celebrities that you've had for the last 5 years that have always been your speakers at your, you know, your conference, and you can move into quirky people or someone a little bit unusual. Someone suggested the other day that we get, you know, Nat the cook. Wouldn't he be awesome at any online conference? So you're sitting there and you're talking about accounting, and believe me, accounting can be very exciting. But all of a sudden, Nat pops up and everyone's like, wow, that's really awesome. So you've got your knowledgeable experts, but you can also move away from that and do something a little bit left of center, which is fun. The second thing is differentiation of content. So nobody wants to, it's not the 90s anymore. Nobody wants to sit through a PowerPoint presentation. We've moved beyond that, and the technology and the programming and the platforms has enabled us to be able to do that. So you've got the opportunity to do interviews, conversational style. You can do live Q&A from the audience, which is what we're doing here. Breakout sessions. Now, almost every platform has a feature that does this. But fundamentally, what you're doing is giving people what they miss, which is human connection, and throwing them out into breakout sessions mean that they can do that networking, they can greet and meet one another. They might even get to be in a group with one of the keynotes, who knows? And my experience over the last couple of months has been that people really enjoy that time, particularly people who are there to network, and particularly business events, because that's what they're missing, that human connection. Now, there's also the element of making something incredible. So making sure that, you know, that there's something funky, something interesting, something unique, so that you had to be there to see it. You want people to talk about it afterwards. And I guess we're so used to sitting there and doing online calls, varying the content, varying the delivery, and having something a bit quirky or a surprise guest is something that people are going to talk about. And the last thing I would say about, you know, what's the big difference is branding is crucial. It's really important that everything that you're sending out is correctly branded, and not just for you. Also, and I'm a big fan of this, I'm quite passionate about this when it comes to conference and event organizers, is making sure that your speakers, who are often giving their time for free, are acknowledged, because they're doing this as a way of building credibility or building respect. And you want to give them that respect by making sure they're branded correctly, that you're introducing them with the right title, and that makes sure that you're looking after them as well. So the marketing side of things is really, really important. So I guess my main takeaway from, that
effort that you'd put into a real live event. You know,
I know.
Put that same effort into the online experience.
Exactly. And I guess I'm a very process-driven person, but I think that people like to be put through a process that they feel comfortable with. To say, oh, do you reckon you could get up and speak about this for 10 minutes and there you are in the agenda? It's not enough. So nurturing and looking after them, making them feel valued, is you need to do it just as much, if not more, in the online space as well. Making sure that, you know, they sing about being part of the event as well. I want to share with you a really good example that's up on the screen now, which is something I did for Venture Cafe. So this is where content was really important. We started off with 3 experts, and someone very pointedly said to us, that's a manel. So those of you who don't know, a manel is an all-male panel. And I was appalled at myself that I hadn't even realized that it was a manel. So we scrambled and we found Fabulous, which we could have done in the first place. And we had asked equally. It was just unfortunate that females couldn't join us. But we scrambled and we got the right number. We got more people to join. Unfortunately, we got like 13 to join. So Venture Cafe and I kind of scratched our heads, well, how are we going to do this? We can't do a 13-person panel because it'll be ridiculous. So what we did is we did like speed interviews. Everybody had 3 minutes to talk and explain what their, I guess, expertise was in regards to the economy and climate. And then my job was to immediately ask them about it and make it chatty and conversational. So give them just some questions. But the real challenge with that was after 13 speakers, you can feel like it's same old, and you're really going to start to lose your audience. So I guess the expertise has to come from being able to work out what's that nugget of information about that person, what makes them really interesting, and what makes them different from the other people. And that's fundamental when you've got guests anyways. You have to treat them differently and differentiate between them. But that was a real challenge, that one, because the number of speakers suddenly blew out. And you can't really say to people, oh, you know what, you know how, no, we don't want you anymore. It doesn't work that way. So you need to find a way of time managing plus making everybody feel welcome and different from one another.
Oh, amazing. You know, I've got a, before we jump into the next question, I see we've got a few questions coming through. There's one from Alicia. What is the best way to market your online events? Do you have anything to add there, Lexi?
Yeah, okay. So the ones that I've seen that have been the most successful, I think everyone just goes marketing an event 101 and put it through the ringer. I think you have to acknowledge there's different types of events. So, you know, Adam, you mentioned social, fun, exciting, a younger crowd. That's going to be marketed a very different way. I mean, I'm kind of speaking to people who already know this. You guys are all event managers and you know that. But I'm seeing a bit samey with marketing. And I think we can fall into the click on the link, go to the Zoom, drip feeding information, getting people excited about an event and drip feeding it is a great way to get the enthusiasm going. Another thing is whoever's involved in your event, you have to set the expectations that they're going to help you with marketing. You're not going to put someone on a panel that has no connections or no credibility in the industry. You have to ask them nicely, but you have to set the expectation that they should be marketing the event as well. You're giving them the opportunity to speak. They're getting the opportunity to speak. So ask if they wouldn't mind sharing also. And that doesn't just mean creating the collateral and then sticking it in a Google Drive folder and sending them the link. They're not going to have time for that. But giving them some wording. How about you just put that up there on your LinkedIn page? Again, just personal. Don't do a cookie cutter approach.
Thank you, Lex. That's great advice. And just a heads up to everyone with your questions. You know, obviously we're not going to be able to answer everyone's questions here today. But what we will do is we will answer your questions. So we're going to send you a reply either in the comments or afterwards. We're going to send you an email follow-up with answers to your questions. So by all means, keep them coming and don't be dissuaded if your question doesn't get answered immediately during my chat with Alexi today.
And Adam, I would add to that as well. This is about building community. So reach out to one another. I've seen some awesome events run by the event industry. Go back to your professional association, find out what they're doing, find out if they're doing any networking things, because now's the chance to build relationships. While you may not be particularly busy with events, you can be busy doing other things. You know, build up your CPD credits, find out what your professional association's doing, find out what COSBOA and Kate Carnell's office is doing for small business. I'm just putting on my Small Biz Matters hat, aren't I, Adam? I'm getting all advocacy, but I'm excited for this industry because the opportunity to learn and grow and train and be different is there now. It's almost handed on a silver platter.
You know, and it's another one is that, you know, if we were running this very event live, you know, you might, again, you'd have a few people putting their hands up. We could answer a couple of questions, maybe 2 or 3 at most, you know, in the real thing, or however much time we give to questions. but you're really not going to be able to get into answering most of the questions that are in the room. And when you're doing an online event, you just natively have that ability for people to quickly post questions, and you can very easily follow up with them and continue to add value to your community.
Exactly. That ebook is an excellent idea. Why not create an ebook? Ask everybody who's a speaker to contribute a blurb about themselves, and maybe everyone's written an article and stuck it up somewhere online or a blog. Everyone could pull something out that they can add to it, and lo and behold, you've got some content. Content is king. Remember, everybody.
100%.
Adam, we're going to ask you this next question about how to make our online event appear more professional, which I think adds a couple of questions. Carmel's asked a really great question about what kind of equipment do you need for high visual audio Zoom. And could I just add in here that I can't stand those backgrounds, like the, what are they called? The virtual backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yes, they can be cute and funny. And I've seen people with jaws coming at them and ha ha ha. That's great for those community events, but not so good if you're doing something professional. So I've got here a setup where I've got my dual screen, obviously. I've got a HD camera pointing at me directly. I've got a very bright light in my face. I've got a broadcast quality mic, but importantly at the background, that's real. That's actually a dressed background where we've given a lot of thought to, you know, what people want to see. So in the background, we've got things that are interesting, intriguing, but not necessarily distracting. So those are my suggestions for background things as well. And I'll just share with you all, I've got a picture of my daughters, a little picture of them two cuddling each other, glued to my camera so that I'm not talking to a camera, or even worse, a little camera on the top of my laptop. I'm actually talking to my kid's phone or someone's face. Yeah. That's
really, really clever. Different to you, I'm in your psychedelic wooden experience.
Someone just noted that they can't see my background. So I'm wondering if we can make sure that at some point we'll come out and everyone can have a little look at us as well.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, so on to you now, Adam. How do you make online events appear more professional than a conference?
Yeah, so when this trend obviously started to appear with people moving their events online from the live format because of all the COVID lockdowns, etc., we started to notice that people would, okay, great, you sell tickets to your online experience and you say to people, buy your ticket, and 24 hours before the event, I'm going to send you a Zoom link. So hang tight, there's a Zoom link coming soon. And then what we found was that wasn't a particularly professional customer experience for your attendees. And on top of that, attendees were just able to copy paste that link and share it around. So if you were charging for this Zoom experience or whatever video conferencing tool you're using, people could just share the link around, and then all of a sudden you had a problem with gating the experience properly. So that is why at Humanitix we developed and invented the Virtual Events Hub. And what that means, in summary, is that when you sell a ticket, when you set up an event on Humanitix and you say that the location is online, after you submit that event, you'll be prompted to create your Virtual Events Hub. And this is the hub that you land on as an attendee on the day of the event when you're going to attend the event. And that would be like everyone today who landed on the Virtual Events Hub of this event. And funnily enough, we've got the summary of the Virtual Events Hub you would have landed on there. At the bottom, there's even a video about the Virtual Events Hub inside the virtual events. It's like, anyway, I just geek out at that. But separately, you know, the key thing is, well, what problem is this solving? Okay, so when you sell a ticket to your online event through Humanitix now, and you've set up a Virtual Events Hub, what that means is that when people check out and they receive their order confirmation email with their tickets, their invoice, etc., in the middle of the email, they will have a big access your event and click here to access your event. They click there, they open up their tickets, and it's through their ticket that they click access the hub. And through that ticket, they land on this hub. And what we do at Humanitix is we control that only one person is able to go to the hub through one ticket at any one time. So you don't have the problem with people sharing their tickets around and being able to double dip on tickets, just like you'd have at a live event. You can't double scan one ticket. You know, only one ticket can be scanned once. So that's how we cleverly gate the experience, by having people come to this event hub. Then secondly, on the hub, it's now this professional landing page that you've set up for people. So if people are coming to the event, you know, they're 10 minutes early, maybe even 20 minutes early, you're able to put content there. Like here, we've got our speakers, we've got videos, all that kind of stuff, a gallery. And when people are ready, they click the big play button right at the top of the virtual events hub. And that opens up your video conferencing tool. And you can use whatever video conferencing tool you'd like. That for us today, we've put a Zoom conference tool behind that play button. But you could use whatever tool you'd like, and you'd simply insert that behind the play button. And it creates this really nice, it's a professional experience. So again, you're not having to worry about sending out Zoom links or whatever links 24 hours or on the day of the event, and that can be a bit troublesome. The other thing that you can do is we've coordinated this with our email campaigns. So like today, everyone would have received a follow-up email campaign that we drive through Humanitix. And in that campaign, you're able to use the @virtualeventshub tag, which means you can say to people, hi, @first name, it'll bring in their first name. Looking forward to seeing you today at the event. You know, just to give you a heads up, and just so you've got it on hand, here's your virtual events hub. You access the hub and the event through this link, so that people are both intuitively accessing the event through their ticket. And as well, if you'd like to follow up with them on email, just to make sure, you can do that as well and insert their access to their virtual events hub through their ticket.
Adam, I'm getting a couple of questions about the possibility of doing fundraising within the virtual event hub. I'm just wondering if that's something that you guys provide?
Yeah, so we would do that as you'd essentially raise donations prior when you're selling your tickets, where you can have people buying tickets as well as adding an additional donation to their tickets. But what you can do as well is on the events hub itself, you can embed content. So you could embed, for example, you know, a donate now button. That's what a lot of the charities have been doing, so that when people are coming to the hub, you know, 5 minutes before the event, they're able to see something that says donate now. They click the donate now button, and behind that donate now button, you can take the user to open up a new tab on whatever you'd like. That could be your own, if you're a charity or a not-for-profit. You could take them straight to the donations portal in your website. And then that way, everything stays consistent and consolidated inside your donations portal. So people can be saying, yeah, you know what, I want to donate now. I click the donate now button. It opens up your donations portal that you've got already on your website. And people make a donation, and then they hop back in to the hub to access the event. Separate to that, I mean, you could actually embed stuff there like iframes, etc. You can get very, very creative if you wanted people to do that without leaving the virtual events hub as well, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, there's lots of great options there. Thank you. Oh, Canva. Yeah. Oh God, this is one of the things that I have to learn to use. I've been meaning to do this for a couple of years. It's such an important tool these days.
Yeah, it's unreal. We have an awesome relationship at Canva. So everything you do on Humanitix, when it's images, things like the banner image of the ticketing page, the images on the virtual events hub if you're using it, everything, images in the descriptions, we've integrated what's called the Canva button. And we were the very first ticketing platform in the world to do so. And what that does is native inside Humanitix, it brings up your Canva account, so that you can be using your go-to templates or your brand styles or your design guides, etc. Or just simply using the awesome design tools of Canva, putting together a nice image, clicking publish, and then it drops it straight back into your Humanitix element that you were designing for. It's the most intuitive, easy to use design tool that is just amazing. There's a free account that you can use, which has an amazing set of templates. If you're a not-for-profit or a charity, they offer 10 free licenses to all not-for-profits and charities. That's for the Canva Pro account. And if you're not a charity or not-for-profit, I've forgotten the pricing exactly of the Pro account, but it's very, very reasonable. And the Pro stuff gives you a whole bunch more sophisticated design tools. They're really, really impressive.
And I will put on my small business advocacy hat here and say that if you go anything beyond just putting some graphics together, do engage with your local graphic designer or web designer or someone who can assist you to make things even more snazzy.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing to mention is Humanitix is on the Zapier network. And what Zapier is it's a way of integrating all your different pieces of software without having to hire a developer and pay a lot of money or have the know-how of computer programming in order to integrate two products together. So that's what makes Zapier so powerful, and that's what Zapier is. I think you were mentioning to me the other day, Alexi, and I totally agree. Zapier gets thrown around all the time, and often people just leave scratching their heads, not really knowing what Zapier is. If I was you, I just wouldn't be intimidated to just jump on Zapier and have a look at what's available there in terms of what businesses and their applications are on Zapier. Because what that means is that, for example, when you sell, if you're using Humanitix to sell tickets, you can have a notification pop up on Slack every time, on one of your Slack channels, every time a ticket is sold. You can have it update a Google Sheet with all of the ticketing information from that order or that attendee. You can have it send an email through your Gmail by integrating it with your Gmail. You can update HubSpot if you use HubSpot for CRM. You can do it to your WordPress website to update particular things on your site. And it's really just drag and drop. You know, when you sell, there's things called triggers. So that's when something happens. You'd like something else to happen in the other application. And it's drag and drop kind of stuff that requires no computer science degree, which I think for many small business owners, many entrepreneurs, you know, where you're trying to run on a tight budget and do some amazing things and automate and streamline stuff as much as possible. It's just such a valuable tool.
And it's not just for not just for marketing as well. I know accountants and bookkeepers love Zapier.
Yeah, I bet they would.
Anyone who's very process driven loves it. So yeah, it's another one I've got to look into. Thanks for giving me homework, Adam.
Absolutely. Cool, Alexi, I've got one for you. So,
okay.
All right, so people are attending an online event, but as you can see here in this video, you've got somebody on their laptop, they've got their cat next to them, they're right by the window, maybe there's some exciting stuff happening outside the window, their plants are right there, they're thinking, have I watered my plants? When was the last time I watered my plants? There's all these distractions compared to when somebody attends a live event. They're there, they're in the auditorium, they're in the venue, and you know, it's much easier to capture their attention and engage them. So what are your tips for online, given all these distractions?
Yeah, there's quite a few questions cropping up in the chat about that as well. And it is, you know, fundamentally, it does come down to the valuable content and making sure that people are there for the right reasons. But I guess that engagement thing is really tricky. And I'm sure lots of you have already investigated the different platforms and what you can do to keep people engaged, whether it's a poll, whether it's using their phone to do the app thing. I've seen facilitators ask people to get up and stretch, you know, and do something a little bit physical, like you would in a conference. So it's very difficult to keep that engagement going. Conversations are a great way to do it. It's kind of a gimme, but it's something that we forget about because we're so used to seeing that whole one person talking to the camera, not taking a breath kind of scenario. Right. But when you have someone else in the room with you, you feel as though you're engaged with them as a group. And then when you have them looking at the sessions and looking at the questions and engaging with you as well, that's a really great way to keep them engaged. So in terms of encouraging conversation between panelists or between people who are in the event, some great questions there. Get them together beforehand. So get them in the room, get them talking about one another, get them to introduce one another. You can do this all virtually as well. Of course, you do a mini online call, you have them all in the room so that when they're on the screen together, they've already got that rapport. And they've already developed that relationship. So, and then say to them, you know, you as the person introducing the webinar, get them to have a conversation before you begin. So start off by having that little banter, and that will encourage it to happen throughout. And encourage them to ask each other questions as though they're involved as well. So I guess what I'm saying largely is that people now are looking at facilitation. They want to know that they're in good hands. They want to know that everything is organized, they're time managed. The technical side, everyone's pretty forgiving about that because, you know, we live in Australia and we have possibly one of the worst.
Horrible internet.
Horrible online access. So people get it, and they get that, you know, people drop off and turn into weird robots on the screen. And so I think there's a lot of hang-ups about making sure that it's okay. I've recently been engaged to do something with a government organisation, and they said, oh, we want to do something on content marketing. I said, well, that's pretty broad. How about we, you know, narrow it down? We'll bring someone on to talk about LinkedIn, someone to talk about Facebook, someone to talk about Instagram, who'll probably be under 20, and then we'll get them all together to chat. And their response was, oh, we couldn't possibly risk not, like, they lost the ability to have that conversational element because they were so worried about the technical side not working. It's like, it's fine, don't worry about it. They just dial back in, it's okay.
Right.
So everyone needs to, if you are hung up, that sounds a bit mean, doesn't it? But if you are concerned about that, then get out there and start watching videos and watch the training videos, which are fantastic, that are put on by each of these organisations. Learn about different pieces of software out there. We're not going to cover that today though, Adam, we will say that. We're not talking about software so much, but learn it. So another thing is...
This is the best opportunity now of all.
Oh, exactly. And rather than... People will forgive technical stuff-ups, but what they won't forget is transitions. So I find that if your transitions are a bit clunky or there's those moments of silence, it's kind of what we call on radio, we call it dead air. It's if you're listening to the ABC and it goes silent, it's like, what's happened? Where they gone? So it's important that you don't have dead air. So whoever, if you're facilitating it, make sure you just keep on chatting, keep talking about it. You can even go, oh, I'm just going to click over here now and let's drag this screen over here and talk about what you're doing. And that does take confidence in me, and you have to be comfortable with what you're doing, which kind of leads me into why you would get an external facilitator. Which is so important as well. You know, you create the content, you get the speakers together because you're the expert in that field, and then the facilitator curates it. So you want someone who's not just good at live, but also good at chatting and conversations and that sort of thing as well.
That's very timely. I mean, you know, the next question I've got for you is all around your speakers and performers that you're asking to come and you know, help curate and produce the content for your event. You know,
exactly.
How do you manage speakers and performers well in an online world compared with what you're probably used to in, you know, live, where people come on the day, you give them a brief, they sit down in a room, grab a bottle of water and made to feel good and off they go.
Yeah. So people are lemmings. People are, they basically need to be told exactly what to do, and they need to know what to expect. And once you remove that concern about how, you know, they may be worried about things not quite working, or they don't know which way the conversation's going to go and then how to handle it. If you take that away, they feel a lot more comfortable. So whenever I brief my speakers to do a particularly with panels, if I'm briefing someone to do panels, you have to get the people in the room together. And my quirky thing is, at all those events, people won't like that out there. I say, okay, we know what the key takeaways are that the event organizers want you to talk about, but what do you want to talk about? And so really get from your speaker their expertise. Find those, as I call them, those nuggets of information. And then while they're speaking, you're madly typing out a loose, what I call scaffolding script that they will follow. Now, 9 times out of 10, those speakers are not going to have that script in front of them. They're probably not even going to remember the conversation or what questions and answers you're going to ask, but they have the confidence to know that this will be my section where I'm going to be speaking. This will be, you know, Bob's section. And in this middle bit, we're going to have a bit of a banter or a little bit of a robust discussion, which has to be enabled as well. So it's about giving them the scaffolding to feel confident and comfortable. And I know one of the questions we had at the beginning was, how do you brief a speaker for being online instead of being live? You know, live, they know what to wear and you give them a bottle of water, right? And you might tell them what chair they're sitting on if they're female, so they know whether to wear pants or a skirt. That's But, and what type of microphone, you know, can I just say as a radio presenter, please tell them what type of mics they'll be using in advance. That's kind of nice. But we don't have that luxury. So what I like to brief people on is, you know, making sure that they've got the lighting, the sound. If they don't have you know, a broadcast microphone, then they can use a crappy set of headphones. They often have better quality sound than just your laptop, for example. Encourage them to have a stopwatch or a timer in front of them. So if you're going to say to them, I'm going to give you 10 minutes to speak, they know when the 10 minutes is up because they're so busy talking to the camera, they're not being conscious of time. Encourage them to use plain block clothing, although when you all see me, when we pop up at the screen at the end of this, you'll notice that I'm not wearing blocky clothing. I'm not wearing plain colours because I'm trying to come across as the facilitator. But get them to wear plain colours. What else? Grooming. Brush their hair. Just make a little note. So if you have a little checklist, I think, that talks about the technical, the lighting. It's very easy to go and grab a lamp from another room and pop it in front of you. I've got a book launch tonight for Annie Gibbons, who's this fabulous woman who's doing a launch tonight. We're doing an online book launch. And one of the speakers is in a hotel room trapped in Argentina. Literally, she's been trapped for 3 months. And she was talking to me beforehand. I went, is that your background? Is that where you're going to be sitting? And she goes, yeah, what's wrong with it? Okay, all right. Are there any plants in the hotel room? And she said, yeah, okay. So go and get the plant, put it behind you, put something to break up the picture behind you that's not too distracting, but isn't like a white screen, which is just dull and boring. What are some of the other tips as well? Doing dry runs, agenda. You wouldn't, don't put people, I wouldn't put a person on air dry, but I wouldn't put anybody online without prep either. I think that's really important. And then of course, you know, content being king, making sure there's no overlap between the speakers. So I've noticed a few times with some conferences that I've been doing recently, the speakers are really samey. You need to keep that variety of the people who are presenting so that you're getting a different perspective on the topic that you're presenting, which is very important. And then I guess the last thing is to, I guess, talk to them about enabling them to speak about their expertise. So, and keep it conversational, keep it chatty. Don't just do the piece to camera. That's really important. There's some great pictures up on the screen now, actually. I'll just draw your attention to them. Andrea, who's in that picture on the left, she did have a virtual background, but I thought it was kind of nice. It was arty and she was well dressed and well groomed. And that kind of is important because, yeah, we're seeing some stuff on TV at the moment where there's professors. It's like, guys, did you brush your hair this morning? It is kind of important for presentations. So don't be afraid to brief people that way and encourage them to be part of the conversation.
I'm often guilty of going too long without shaving, but I made sure to shave this morning.
Oh, and I would say as well, one of our secret sources we're doing today is we've got a WhatsApp channel happening in the background where Jenny is actually monitoring the questions. And if there's something really pertinent she wants to draw our attention to, she'll put it up in the WhatsApp. So you've got your clock, you've got your WhatsApp, and that's important in case there is a major technical issue like we can't hear you anymore. You think you can be heard and you keep on talking to the camera. So if you've all got one another looking after each other, you can say, we can't hear you. Or, you know, there's a big technical issue. Right. That's where the WhatsApp channel can be really helpful. Yeah, it's super helpful. And the other thing to point out is that myself, you, Alexi, and Jenny, none of us are in the same room today. We're all online. We're not coordinating this from the same room. So that's where, as you mentioned, the WhatsApp groups, etc., they really help with being able to keep that communication flowing of any technical glitches or stuff that's pertinent that pops up. Exactly. And I think the main thing, those of you who know Greg Ward, he's an absolutely fantastic MC. And he came on my radio show recently and talked about exactly this. He's great at doing online presentations. But he was the one who mentioned about having the photograph in the background. But also he talked about, and I forgot to mention this before actually, don't forget about standing up. You know, if you're facilitating an event, stand, because quite often that opens up your chest cavity and you speak better, and don't forget to gesture and wave your hands around a bit. Otherwise you look like one of those stagnant professors that we talked about before.
We've given professors enough of a, of a bashing today. Yeah, awesome. I mean, I thought what we could perhaps chat next about is, you know, what we're learning from some of the best organizers. And, you know, I touched on this at the beginning, and I thought it would be worth bringing up again, which is really embracing the strengths of the online format. And just to stop and consider what those strengths are. So we've already been through the fact that your attendees can attend your event from anywhere on the planet. And that was best seen with the Nonna example of her business exploding. That, by the way, is particularly helpful when you're teaching something. And online events that are teaching something right now are really doing well to get really good cut through and engagement. So on that, try to evoke and include something that people are learning. That's really getting through to people when they're at home and looking to learn something. The second is the geographical boundaries of your speakers. We've gone through that. The third thing is a lot around logistics. So for example, when you go to promote an event, you're looking at hiring a venue, and you hire the venue based on the number of people that you think, the number of events that you think you're going to get. Oh, I've just got a heads up from Lexi. Let's stop sharing and let's...
Yeah, people are going, I want to see your face. So everyone go to gallery view so we don't just see Adam's face. That's better. So click on gallery view, those of you who are not, as if anybody's not understanding the ins and outs of Zoom these days. But yeah, go to gallery view and then you can see all of us and you can see all that background stuff I was talking about before. Sorry, I interrupted you, Adam. Go for it.
No, thank you for interrupting me. It's the value of our WhatsApp group. So yeah, I mean, so, you know, you've got people that when you set up your event, you're looking at, well, damn, how many tickets am I really going to sell? I'm going to have to do a deal with the venue. I'm going to have to pay a lot of money in upfront costs to get a venue that I hope I'm going to sell the tickets and fill. It's a massive cost, but it's a massive risk, because what if I don't sell the tickets and then I've got a big hole in my pocket? When you're doing an online event, you literally have a venue that can be as small or as big as you need it on the day of the event, and you only pay for the size of the room. So if you're selling, if you're using Zoom or any of the other online products, you pay per number of attendees. And that really is kind of like a venue as a service, where it's an elastic venue that expands. You only pay for what you use. And if we could have that in the real world, that would be incredibly helpful, you know, for live events. But that's not possible. So that's another huge strength of the model. And then you can start to look at where you redeploy that capital into. So whether that's more marketing to try to capture more and more attendees. And again, you can start to play around with more of different channels of marketing. So maybe your concept will take off in Canada, despite you running events from Victoria or New South Wales or South Africa, etc. There's been some crazy stories of organizers just being surprised that they get cut through in different geographies. And then they're surprised by the number of people that attend from that geography.
Yeah,
so that's really helpful.
And that's the beauty of it. Don't forget your attendees are worldwide, and so are your speakers, and that's a beautiful thing. We've got a question, speaking of having lots of people in. People were asking about how to get people to engage in breakout rooms. So here's me being an extrovert, assuming that everyone wants to go into a breakout room and is perfectly happy talking to complete strangers for 10 minutes. So when I've done this in the past, I've done a wine and cheese evening, which was a couple of speakers talking, 10-minute slots, and then we'd throw everyone into breakout rooms. So you can do it randomly, or you can prep it. With Zoom, the prepping is a bit clunky. It gives you this weird CSV file that I couldn't even, I mean, I live in Excel world and I couldn't even figure this out. So if you can do it on the run, where you have someone working in the background, and you can set up your breakout rooms. And I would, in advance, find 6 or 7 people who are happy and very good networkers and are willing to be kind of the facilitator of those mini breakout rooms. So you put them as the main person, and then you can randomize the rest of them. Or if you want to be really picky, you can drag and drop the people into the other rooms. And then you've always got someone who is, I guess, in control and helping the conversation, and give people icebreaker questions. So you've just heard a speaker talk for 15 minutes. Easy one. What's your key takeaway from that person? or what would you like to share with other people in the group about this topic? Or have you got a funny story that you can share? Again, it depends on what sort of an event you're running, but it's a good question, because some people, you throw 5 introverts into a room, it's going to be like deers in headlights. So have someone in there who will help the conversation move along.
I like that. Alexi, I'm conscious that it is now, we've just gone over 3 o'clock. I mean, we've had such a good conversation. Just to kind of wrap up, there was one last point here around using the Humanitix model to help engage your audience. You know, we see really savvy event organizers using their little widget. So when you sell tickets on Humanitix, live in real time, we report to you exactly how much impact we've made to either the Indigenous Scholarships Program or the Girls Literacy and Life Skills Program. And that's yours to use and talk about to your guests. And what we find is that when organizers jump on and they talk about it on social media or email about how their event has had a social impact, those are often the posts that get by far the most engagement, because it's a completely different aspect or perspective on the event that attendees love. A little bit of a shout out, next week we will be launching the promotional hub in Humanitix as well. And so we've worked closely with Canva to collate all of these amazing templates on Canva that you'll be able to access for free through the promotional hub. And you can use them to make posts or put together emails or content about how your event has made an impact. And they're beautiful Canva templates that you can tweak to your liking. And all of those templates that we actually got from the Canva Pro features and tools. So we're able to make those available to you despite not necessarily having a Canva Pro account. So that's something we're really excited to be launching next week to help organizers talk more about their events. So, I mean, we've gone a little bit over time. Thanks to everyone's patience. I mean, there's been so many questions, and we promise that we're going to get to every single one of your questions. So thank you so much for your questions. If you know, after this event finishes and you have a question that comes to mind, please email Jenny. That's Jenny's email there. It's jennychung@humanitix.com.au.
And I'm more than happy to answer any questions directly, guys. If you want to reach out to me as well, you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to just have a chat and make suggestions for you and give you any advice around, you know, facilitating and helping make this a more human experience.
Unreal. Thank you, Lexi. And if Jenny gets any questions that were really Lexi's topic as well, don't worry, Jenny's going to be reaching out to Lexi to get her all of her insight on the answers.
No worries.
Absolutely. And the other thing to mention is, if you're chatting about this on social, use the hashtag Humanitix Masterclass. You know, if you've loved this, if you found this valuable, then please feel free to let people know about this. And, you know, as Lexi mentioned at the beginning, this is all recorded, so this will be helpful to you, hopefully going forward. There's lots of free resources and books and videos. If you go back to the Virtual Events Hub, that's where you would have come from to attend this event. So feel free to go back there. You can continue to go back there anytime and have a browse and use any of those resources that might be helpful.
Awesome. Well, thanks very much for having me, Adam. It's been a great opportunity to address everyone and you know, tell everyone to just, I don't know, hang in there and do your best. And everyone's waiting. We're all waiting with bated breath to get back into events. We're all busting to get back together again. So I'm sure you'll all hit the ground running with all fantastic learnings like we've had today. Thanks, Adam. Thank you, Alexi, and thank you, Jenny, and thank you everyone for joining today. We hope it's been valuable, and please feel free to give us feedback. You know, we're thinking more and more about running more of these, and we just want to give as much value as possible and share insights and the stuff that we're learning, because we see a lot of it. So the more we can give you, the better. So please give us feedback. Fantastic. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everyone.